Hi, hello, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Analyze the Market in the Absence of Activities and Comps. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to be on the call. Today, Jess and I will be utilizing the Altus Market Insights Canada offer capabilities to showcase some tips to aid in your research activities. First, some housekeeping. So everyone's been muted, so to avoid any accidental noise, and we are recording the session. So all registrants will be emailed a link to the recording after the webinar. Please feel free to submit any questions or make any comments in the chat during the session. And if we have time at the end of the webinar, we'll try and answer a few questions, but if we don't, then someone will get back to you with your answers. I also want to mention that we'll be doing a few polls during the webinar. We'd really appreciate it if you take the time, let us know your answer, and to make this more of an interactive conversation. So I'm James Pearson. I'm an offer manager with the Market Insights offer team, and I specialize in our Canadian markets. I've been with Altus for 10 years and been in the real estate technology sector for 25. With me is Jess. She's worked at Altus for nearly the last decade, and she now specializes in data solutions for commercial real estate.
Hi, James, and hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the call today. We actually have a poll question right off the bat to really get our conversation kick-started.
Yeah, so I want to know, like, what strategies are you using to analyze the Canadian commercial real estate market today? Is it more of a first-person manual approach, networking to get that information, or engaging with third-party consultants? We'll just give it a few minutes and let everyone answer.
I think it's going to be a mixed bag, James. What do you think?
I think a lot of people are still doing a lot of first-person and manual research as well.
That's true.
Most likely. Let's see if the poll results come in.
We'll give everybody a chance to answer.
Oh, it's right. So it does look like, yeah, first-person manual research. Interesting to see how many people are engaging with the third-party consultants.
Absolutely.
I think everyone needs to find their own sort of secret sauce and getting that information.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of to that point, I'm really glad that we could spend this time talking today. You know, it really is, it's no secret that this year we've seen less activity across North America. I mean, you know, really in most markets and sectors. And that makes researching and analyzing market performance a lot tougher than it used to be.
Oh, definitely, you're right, Jess. There's just not as many deals. And so we have a heightened risk, and there's fewer options when it comes to managing portfolios. Really, as the markets slow down, there's a greater need to understand the market dynamics, and having access to the most accurate and complete market data is really essential. You know, also having the right tools to interpret and visualize, it becomes really crucial during the research process.
Absolutely.
So that sort of leads us to our next poll question. We're wondering, you know, when you're looking at the markets and doing research, are you focusing on a single market? Are you concentrating only on the markets where you're doing business, or are you looking at markets across the country? So we'll just give that a couple minutes too. I think this one's definitely gonna be a mixed bag.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the results of this one.
Mm-hmm. We'll just give it a few more seconds. Okay, so we don't want to leave it for too long, but we want to make sure people have an opportunity to select an option.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. Make sure that pop up. Okay, so yeah, so concentrating where you're doing business. That totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, yeah. I think kind of, what you were expecting as well.
Super. Well, so regardless of sort of what your end use case is, or why you're doing the research, understanding the overall market dynamics is a common starting point for everyone. But you can't just look at the local market, or what you historically focused on. It's really important to make comparisons across multiple markets to better understand even your own investment markets.
Yeah, exactly. Understanding the wider market, it just becomes more important when you have less transactions happening. You may not be doing as many deals, but those opportunities that you are participating in, they have to perform better. So that's really where we can start to offer users a data-backed perspective on the wider Canadian market.
Definitely. I know sort of your next steps to take us into the application, Jess, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Altus data coverage and sourcing for the market insights. We have a large team of researchers capturing data on source. They're in-market researchers collecting, verifying, and aggregating data across Canada. And I want to stress, they're working in their local markets. We've been performing this research function and producing transaction data for the market since 1995. I think this is even before Google was invented. But seriously, the Altus research team has produced information on over 160,000 commercial transactions, deep dives into those transactions. They track over 50,000 office and industrial buildings and have tracked or are tracking over 11,000 new home projects across Canada. Also in select markets, they track development applications in multifamily rental buildings as well.
I'm going to take us into the platform now so you can start to see the results of some of what James was referencing here. So you all should be able, there we go, to see my screen. I think it's taking just a second to update. So James, give me a thumbs up if that, there we go. I think that showed up. I'm going to take us into our first set of dashboards to take a look at here. So the dashboards we're going to be looking at today are representing our Canadian commercial sales and listings catalogs. Starting with this first set, really focused on commercial sales for offices across all of Canada for the last 3 years. So I initially see market metrics for the current month. I can see the number of transactions, the total dollar volume of those transactions that are occurring. I can get into things like the min and max cap rate. So just a really quick snapshot of current metrics, right? Now, as I scroll down, we'll start to visualize some of this data. So I get into, first of all, this pie chart. I can see the purchaser profile by dollar volume. This is really showing us who are the office investors in Canada, who's buying right now. And then right next to that, I have specifically for our office properties, cap rates, average price per square foot, broken down both by building size and by construction year. And if I continue scrolling down, we'll get to our time series graphs. And it's going to show us property transactions by quarter, looking back to 2020 through present day. We'll also get a time series looking at the average price per square foot against the average cap rate, again, coming all up to present day. And in this visual, it makes it really clear to see, from a national perspective, across time, we can see transaction volumes have declined. Now, this isn't really, kind of where we end things. As we start to get more and more detailed into our analysis, I'll also mention that commercial listings market trends are going to correlate to asset transactions, and they really inform the industry about things like supply and demand, leasing trends, overall market conditions, all of which impact your perceived and actual property values. So, while we've started out focusing on sales comps, it's not just the sales comps that matter. It's also your listings, your performance in an area, absorption trends, vacancy rates, and sublet rates. So I've flipped over into now our commercial listings dashboard, which is right now giving us, again, through the market metrics, that quick snapshot across the nation. I can also go from this national perspective very quickly to a more drilled in view. So you can see I'm very quickly drilling down into downtown Toronto, all the way down to the node of the financial core. And I can even get as specific, because I'm looking at office listings, I can now get as specific as, class A, B, C, apply those filters, and we'll see our market metrics start to update. I mentioned some of those metrics that we can start to look at here: vacancy rates, sublet available rates, and we can start to also visualize this, again, a little bit further down, now looking at things over time. So not only are we looking at, hey, here's the current quarter of listings activity, but now on this available space time graph, we can see our available space trend just laid right out for us. We can also see, if I start to highlight some of these, right, I can see my direct available rate. That's going to show my loss of income. I can see my sublet rates. And, if we kind of think about it, a higher sublet rate is going to represent guaranteed income for one thing, but it also tells us that something's happening in the market that's causing people to try and drop those leases. Now, if we look at, kind of what we see on the screen here, where we see sublet rates going down, direct rates going up, that tells us one of, actually a couple of things. One, leases are expiring and no one is coming in. And two, people trying to sublet their space don't have anyone to come in and take over the lease. So that's just a couple of, quick takeaways I could get, looking at these on-the-fly visualizations. We have more than just the available space here in the platform. If, for example, I wanted to take a look at the change in leased area over time, right, I can start to get visualizations on all of this information. What I'll just quickly mention, I have a quick plug for the audience. So if you are interested in this level of detailed analysis, please remember to join us on Thursday, November 9th. We have a webinar on the Canadian state of the market. And I think at some point, it's up there. We've got that link to register plugged into the chat for you guys.
Super. Yeah, that's great, Jess. You can really get a good idea of historical current performance nationally and by the markets and the nodes like you've shown. But I know eventually when someone's honed in on a specific area of interest, for a project or whatever they're doing, the next step is really, find out as much information as you can about the properties and activity within that specific area. Like I said, with the dashboard, I can do asset type, predefined submarkets, but many workflows, you need to start getting into the specific set of buildings you need to look at.
Yeah, exactly. Next steps really are to find out about the properties and the activity in your specific area of interest. Now, while I can't drill down directly from this dashboard into specific transactions or building profiles, what I can do is use our map feature and our form search feature to get to a more nuanced list of results, really, more actionable property intelligence that's specific to, maybe certain investment parameters. So we're going to start to explore this on the map feature that I've just pulled up. I've selected from, you can see it right at the top of the screen, I've selected from our commercial listings catalog to display here. And this is giving me, again, the ability to really start to refine this area. So again, I can filter all the way down to a particular node of a district. But I think what's even more special here is if I zoom out ever so slightly, I can also start to manipulate the boundaries that I see on the map. So I may want to start with the kind of traditional financial core, but maybe for my investment purposes, we're also including the harbor front in a part of that analysis. And actually, we're not looking all the way up to Queen Street. So you'll notice that I can start to manipulate the boundaries on the map. And once I am getting to that defined area, I'm showcasing my own view of my investment market, we can actually save the search. So you'll notice there's a save button right at the top of the screen. And actually, you've seen me kind of manipulate it on the fly, but here is my saved search. Not a lot of difference there, but you can see now I'm just, at the click of a button, pulling up this, area that has my specific parameters, my map boundaries, and now I can deploy it anytime I log in. In addition to being able to save your searches and look at these results directly in the map, we can also use this view results icon at the top of the screen to get a more tabular view of the property records that we were just looking at on the map, but it really breaks down for each individual office building. So you can see that just refreshed. Now this is an exportable table that I'm showing you here. But, there's a lot we can actually do in the platform itself before we just pull the data straight out and go on with our duties. So for example, I can select all of these records. And now I can start to get a chart of available office space in Toronto's financial core, but my own definition of Toronto's financial core going all the way back to 2018. Not only do we have, you can see at the top of this, not only do we have our available space, we also have an absorption chart. So we can start to look at the change in occupied area over time. And just a reminder, just like I talked about how the table of results is exportable, all of these charts are exportable too. So we can download the image, the data behind the image, and really start to customize our own analysis in addition to what you see here. I'll also point out that we can get to the same level of a detailed search through our filtered form search function. So if instead of looking at it plotted out on a map, it makes more sense to select key parameters and run a search, we can certainly do that. You can save your searches here as well. And if we select from one of my saved searches, we can get a view of office transactions across Canada that have a verified cap rate. So I've now got this list of results, and I can start to analyze this, whether I'm looking at all of it and analyzing by cap rate or by square footage. And I can select from really any one of these. Let's see if we've got something interesting to look at here. Let's look at this Royal Bank Plaza. This will start to give us a deep dive into the building profile. So this is going to give me not only really quite a lot of detail for the property. I'm going to get a history of sales transactions. I can see the most recent transaction summary, and I'll also get a link. You can see just off to the left of the screen, I can also get a link here to the leasing performance in the building. And you guys will be able to see really there's quite a lot of detail here, several tabs that I can start to flip through. I'm not going into all of these though. I am going to focus us just on the contact us, this last tab that you see. In this area, you can get directly in touch with someone from our research team. Maybe you have information about a deal, or you want to get clarification on a piece of information that you see here. This gives you that direct link to the teams that are putting this information together.
You know, looking back at these, and I noticed that, you know, we're looking at focusing on a bit on the cap rate. Now, during analysis, of course, capitalization rate is a very important KPI. And I know our researchers do their very best to obtain all the data points they can on all the transactions. But in a market where there's not as many transactions, I think we're going to end up with really fewer sample points and cap rates in a given time or area. You know, what are other ways we can sort of supplement that cap rate benchmark and just get a sort of idea when we don't have the comps?
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up. That's really where ITS, or our investment trend survey, comes into play. Now, every quarter, Altus Group is reaching out to over 200 market experts and stakeholders, canvassing their views on things like value trends, their interests in the market. This survey is going to give you really valuable insights into 32 different asset classes in Canada's 8 largest markets. The investment trends survey is going to give you the ability to study what are the perceptions of key decision makers in your market. That really gives you additional tools to start to interpret what are the trends that are going to impact my future markets.
Definitely. Okay, yeah, the ITS for sure. I know this chart well. What we're looking at here, it's just one of hundreds of questions we ask quarterly to the market experts. You know, in this graph, it's showing sort of industry leader sentiment for Class AA office benchmarks across Canada for the next 12 months as they see it from this quarter's perspective. This one here, you see the arrows. It's comparing it to what they thought last quarter when we asked them about the same benchmark property. Now, you know, I can quickly see that in most major markets, it's looking like cap rates going up while we're looking at the price per square footage going down. We can also dive into, you know, one market and see the last 5 quarters historically what the sentiment was. So here we're looking at every quarter they're asked in the next 12 months, how do you see this asset performing? And this really shows the visualization in Toronto of the sentiment is, you know, cap rates going up, price per square footage going down. I think overall, it's just describing that feeling I think, you know, most investors have right now, that things are a little bit more high risk.
Yeah.
For sure. So we have another, in this in mind, I think it's a good time to throw in another poll question, because, you know, after describing what the ITS being sentiment of all the people we survey, we'd like to survey you and think, what's your outlook for 2024? You know, do you think things are going to get worse before they get better? Dark clouds are going to start to clear, or everything's fine, nothing to worry about, or no idea, sign me up for the investment survey trend survey. Now,
sign me up.
I know definitely, again, to plug Raymond Wong and Peter Norman's webinar on the 9th. Raymond, when he's doing this analysis of the commercial market, quite often quotes the ITS, and I'm sure he will be in that presentation as well.
Smart guy, that Ray Wong. Peter Norman too.
Let's see, it should come up in just a second. I think that is the general sentiment. Things will get worse before they get better, but they will get better. Hopefully the timeline starts getting better in 2025.
Yeah.
Super, so interesting. So, you know, we looked at all the commercial, you know, you went through and touched on the commercial comps and transactions and the commercial listings, the tracking of the office and industrial buildings performance that we do in the major markets. Yeah. I think it's shift over to looking at some of our residential project tracking. So, sure. You know, the residential market's intricately connected to the commercial real estate market. You know, understanding the dynamics and trends and interplay between the two is really vital in making informed decisions. But, you know, investors who can really leverage their knowledge of the residential market are really better equipped to identify and hopefully capitalize on emerging opportunities and, again, hopefully mitigate some risk.
Yeah, certainly. Knowing where people are going to live, what areas are growing and developing, what's selling, the velocity of what's selling, these can all be indicators for where you might be able to drop a commercial branch for an office. So understanding the residential market allows investors to identify opportunities, you know, potentially for even mixed use developments. We're going to head out of the poll and back into the platform. And so we'll give it just a second, but I'm going to take us into some now residential dashboards. So we've looked at commercial sales dashboards, commercial listings dashboards. We even have them for the residential sales. We have some, is that updated yet, James? I just want to make sure.
At the poll.
Okay, I think it's taking just a second to update, so we'll give it just another second. Thanks for everyone's patience while the slide deck updates. But what I'm going to be doing is giving us a quarterly view of periodic sales. So I think that.
Cool. Results.
It is, let me do a stop share and a reshare for you guys because I'm getting me a note that it's not coming through. So we're going to try this once more. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully this will update for you guys.
There we go. Super.
Okay, great. So I have pulled up, like I was saying, residential dashboards. Keep in mind that what we're looking at is all from a pre-construction perspective. So from the opening of the sales office, we have, current month, and then I'll scroll down to get into our periodic sales dashboard here. And this is giving us that view back from Q1 of 2020. We can look across and see how residential sales peaked across 2021, specifically in quarters 2 and 4 of that year. We start to see a decline in residential sales at the start of 2022, but really by Q3, you see that sharp drop off or decline in transactions. Now, I think many of us know what was happening in the market at the time, but we're going to get to that because what I'll just quickly mention is that sales alone are not going to tell the full picture, right? There could be less inventory, and so that's why we're seeing the decline in sales. So if I switch from our periodic sales chart over to our available inventory chart, this is going to show us on a monthly basis all of the available inventory. We can see actually here inventory is staying pretty constant, if even for high rise not going up. So we can tell there's an outside factor impacting those sales. And what we know about the market is, hey, those interest rates started rising towards the end of 2022. So having all of this information helps us tell a fuller, more complete picture. I'll navigate over to our map view because I'll point out that we can also take a look at residential active or sold out residential projects I'll mention here on the map. And because we have that saved parameter, the map boundaries are saved to the system. Now I'm looking at those projects just in my specific area of potential or existing investment. And of course, just like we were talking about from our previous searches, we can also use our view results button, see a list of those projects, and now get into their specifics. So I'd be able to drill into, any one of these. And again, I've got my reports, my export functions. One kind of other thing I will mention, keeping an eye on the time, I do want to mention that we track development applications. We track multifamily rental properties for specific areas in Canada too. So you really can get into the nitty-gritty details of your market and the analysis of it. James, we have just covered a lot of ground for market insights. So, given all of the ways that you can supplement your research with our market insights tool, I think that's going to bring us to our next poll question.
So we're looking at, what challenges are you facing in your data strategy? So sourcing the data, so that, the original input of getting the data, aggregating and connecting data once you have data from multiple sources, how, struggling with the connecting of it, getting into a form you can use. You then utilize or analyzing the market trends, like actually utilizing once you get it, and then are you struggling with producing it and packaging it to, either present information to your stakeholders or clients or what have you. Give a minute for everyone to answer that. I see we get a lot of questions coming in, which is great. I think we're going to have some time to speak to some of them.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. Super. So I was looking at, I'm sure there's quite the, I think over 800 people on the call, so I know this is
that's great. And honestly, I can see people having struggles with any one of these. So, really, is it kind of what is that primary challenge maybe that you guys can answer on?
Yeah. So we got it. So it's sourcing data. I think that's perfect. It's getting that data eventually.
Yeah.
And then it's just getting the data, especially, I know you can see through some of the questions, the secondary markets, especially.
Yeah.
That's true. So, well, thank you very much for that. One thing we want to show is like whatever your pain points are, Altus we can definitely help. What we've showcased here today was our market insights essentials offering in Canada, and it's delivered through Data Studio, which we're in. We do have advanced and premium offers also. You think of the advanced is mainly around, includes access to APIs to access the actual data to pull it into your own systems or CRMs or business intelligence tools. It gives you access to get that raw data. We also, provide, of course, services on that, on implementing and integrating it. And then we have our premium, which is more of the do it for me, where you work with our experts, in-house experts, and they deliver custom services and custom analytics, things like site feasibility studies and so forth. Definitely, we have this available to support you on all those levels. Definitely if you have more information, if you'd like more information about these solutions and like to speak to someone, let us know in this poll. We'll wait for the answers right now. So the one thing that, while you're answering that is, again, we definitely want to like to extend an invitation to attend the Canadian State of the Market webinar with Raymond Wong and Peter Norman, two of our experts. It's on November 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Ray will be covering the commercial market, and Peter will be taking care of the residential. Definitely link in the chat again. I think it's great. We're at 1:35. We do have time for a few questions. I know one I got was, do we offer any predictive analytics with this platform? And I see a couple other questions that may have been related to from others, where I saw forecasting, I believe, in one of the questions. No, currently in the essentials, as you see, it's all our analytics are definitely based off of our data, that the comps and the tracking we're doing. But we do, in the premium offer with our experts, they have access to data that in aggregate that they can perform some predictive models, especially if you're on your own assets. I think I'd like to take the time too, is we do have sort of, I see one question concerning New York City, that, what we're discussing today is really our essentials offer in Canada, but we do have market insights offer that covers the US. It's delivered through an application called Reonomy. And I think Jesse is much more versed on Reonomy than I am. To sort of describe it in a couple sentences.
Sure. So Reonomy is offering property level intelligence similar to what we saw in our platform today for Canada. There are differences though. So Reonomy is really trying to eliminate the issue where you have data silos and data is sitting in all of these disparate areas. So there is a machine learning backed knowledge graph that's connecting all of these detailed data points about commercial assets in the US, things like debt transactions, sales transactions, really giving you a history of those factors, along with some high level demographics, some dashboarding analysis on transactions in the markets that you're interested in. And we do this all the way down to really a census tract level. So you can get really quite granular with the analysis that you're doing. It covers the 4 main food groups plus some, so including vacant land.
Oh, super. I had another question. Someone asked a question about how far back our data goes. When you're on the commercial listings dashboard, we were showing, Jeff was just trimming it down to the 2020 and up, because be able to really pack. But you can go back to, with the commercial listings in almost all the major markets that we cover, we started in 2000. So if you on the dashboard and you leave it open, it's quite a huge graph with all the quarters. It becomes a bit of a mess. So that's why it's capable to follow that. But yeah, so in most markets for the commercial listings, 2000. When it comes to office, around 2010 for all the industrial properties. On the commercial comps, it depends on market. We started doing the tracking of the commercial transactions in the Toronto area in 1995, and then moved to Vancouver in 1998, then spread out to Calgary and Edmonton shortly thereafter. And our latest was the sort of the surrounding Toronto area, we call the Golden Gordon Horseshoe, like getting it to Guelph and those areas in 2016. So it depends. In residential, it goes back to 2000 as well.
Yeah, so any 20 plus years of history in some cases, really a lot of good data. Yeah,
so to go into the secondary markets, I think I had a question of what if we're looking at smaller areas such as Guelph. That's been part of our Greater Golden Horseshoe data set, and we've been tracking the sales comps in that area, like I said, since 2016. And now the office tracking and industrial lease tracking, it's newer. It's only been a few years, but we're building it up and getting inventory there. So we have the inventory of buildings, but the tracking only goes back a couple of years. So I had a question about Saskatoon. Unfortunately, we're not in the Saskatoon secondary market yet, but we're always looking at expanding some of our secondary markets. But we definitely have big plans for next year. Won't go into any that I'll give away trade secrets, but really like the design of the central property as a central point in the Reonomy application.
Watch this space.
Yeah, watch this space. That's a great way to say it. I had another question about, I think it was more along the commercial listings research, asking is it based on self-reporting or the data is directly from the lease? It is based on sort of self-reporting. We have a great relationship with all of the property owners and many of the large brokerages. They see a lot of value in keeping our database up to date. So we have a tracking schedule of all office buildings. Most of the time, any kind of lease changes, we're hearing from the brokers directly or the property managers directly. But we also, watch all the buildings. If we haven't heard from them, we're on the websites. Our researchers are digging all the time to make sure that the information is up to date. So with that question, yes, it's reporting the asking. We don't have or report the actual lease comps. And just checking for time. Trying to see some of the questions. I apologize. It's in the context. I'm not sure. So in accessing things like the commercial, from a few questions, accessing the commercial dashboard that Jess was showing. If currently you are a subscriber and you do not see the commercial listings dashboard, it's quite possible that your subscription was for the commercial transactions only. And it leads me into, we've sort of reworked our offer structure. Before it was really confusing. You could buy commercial transactions here, commercial listings in another market and so forth. So we made it quite a bit simpler. And now it's more based on the capability of the system, access to the system, you access to all of Canada. And this is another reason why I stress it's so important to know all the markets and to have visual exposure to those markets and be able to dig into any market, even if it's not the market you usually do business in. So we've structured out the new subscriptions is you just get access to all Canada and you get access to all the databases. And I'll tell you right now, the price is extremely comparable to just buying GTA past. So it could be, if you're not seeing it now, it's just that you're on the sort of the old packages where it was piecemeal access. That's good. I'm just being conscious of the time. I will say any other questions I have on here, some of them are quite complicated that we'll be getting answers to you. We'll be asking some of our experts to weigh in on a few of these great questions. We also got some interesting pre-email questions. One from a professor in the University of Guelph, which was amazing, interesting, and in-depth question on the base, what to do. And I know I see a question here as well that's based on that, is what to do when you have nothing, when there's just nothing, and then how you sort of compare statistics to get that confidence, and how do you measure confidence compared to having comps versus not having comps, and actually statistically measuring that confidence, which I think is really interesting thing to dive into. So we'll be asking experts and getting those questions out, those answers out. Super.
Great.
I want to say thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And I think making this a really good success, and answering all the poll questions as well. Super. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks, James.
Oh, thank you, Ted.